Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I am Dr. Charles Cole III. I am the founder and the executive director of the Agentic Institute. Most of you know Energy Converters. That work is some of my life's work. It's been documented and it has lifted youth voices and agency of, thousands of students across 20 states, more than 20 states. And we've trained hundreds of parents in our agentic practices. And tonight, I just want to tell you what it's grown into and why tonight matters. The Agentic Institute is the next chapter in Energy Converters. EC now lives inside of the Agentic Institute as our flagship program, and the Institute is built to take what we've learned on the ground and scale it across every level where change actually happens. That means training students as legitimate participatory action researchers who generate peer-reviewed knowledge about their own communities and their own schools. It means equipping parents and families as informed advocates who can navigate systems rather than be consumed by them. It means developing school and community leaders with the frameworks and language to build cultures of agency from the inside. And it means establishing the Agentic Institute as a leading voice on agency across academia, policy, and practice. And you'll hear all this again because I'm starting on time and we know some people gonna trickle in, but you got to listen to Marvin Gaye if you got here early. We consult with school administrative teams, we consult with educators, we work with community leaders, and we absolutely work with parents and students to raise their awareness and raise their agency so we can actually raise this academic achievement issue that we're seeing plaguing our students and our communities. We do policy work. For instance, right now we're working in Oakland to transform report cards to include actual reading levels because grades are inflated and parents deserve the truth. You should not be concerned as a parent that your kid has straight A's, but is reading multiple grade levels behind, which we found in Oakland with students, and they want to change that. We found out that while working directly with these students on that topic, just how that impacted them and what they felt about their institutions. Again, the Agentic Institute sits in the intersection of research, education, and helping the end users of education, which we call students, family, and our communities. We want them to be able to discover and use their own agency. Tonight is our first Agentic Fireside chat, and we plan to do this quarterly. If you know someone whose story, work, or perspective belongs in this conversation, or you yourself want to dig in more with me directly, reach out. We are actively seeking partners across the field, including educators, school leaders, philanthropic partners, and fellow organizations. I want to hear from you. We are about to show the movie and some things to remember. Some of you may have seen it. Some people are joining us directly at 6 Central when we start the conversation. It's the internet. So if anything does happen, there'll be things scrolling at the bottom that will direct you of where you can watch it on your own. But with that said, drop in your comments, tell us where you're from, tell us what organization you're repping. We had over 450 people RSVP and they're still rolling in, which is beautiful. So we want to make sure that we honor that. And I will start the movie in about 30 seconds. Thank you all so much for showing up. I'm sure you all look lovely and beautiful. Can't see you all, but thank you. It means so much to have you all here. We'll see you again shortly. That was incredible. We're going to get started very soon. We are packing it out in here as we're allowing for people that were watching independently to start to trickle in. We have a pleasant surprise for you for the transition. You have about, don't go too far, but I think you'll like this transition, and then we will come back with some heavy hitters. I will introduce them. But I hope you all are enjoying. Keep putting those comments in. We'll keep posting them. And I will see you all shortly. I really like Nina Simone. So hope you all were able to bear with us. And welcome to everybody that was joining from watching independently or joined at this time. I'm Dr. Charles Cole III. I'm the founder and executive director of the Agentic Institute and Energy Converters. And I know I have to reintroduce that from earlier today. We are an institute that is focused on the intersection of education, community, and actual action that our people need. And many of you are familiar with Energy Converters. Energy Converters is still doing great things. It thrives. We just have moved Energy Converters inside of our larger organization. And it's been really great. Over the years, we have served students and families in over 20 states across the country. We have trained and lifted the voices of thousands of students and trained over 500 parents in agentic tools. And we're just so very honored to have Dr. Fuller here tonight, led by the great Dr. Heather Harding. But before we get there, we have a coalition group that'll be speaking. And, you know, there's a script that I have, and I will say somewhat damn the script. And the reason why I would say that is, in this work is very difficult when you're actually trying to make change and action happen for young people in a country that doesn't really care about young people. And when we talk about, like in this documentary, the intersection of Black people and working class people at that space, the education of it tends to really be lacking. And these people that's about to come up and speak are just incredible. And before I bring them up, I want to say thank you to our partners. We have the Memphis Lift in the house, Sarah Carpenter and her team. There's a lot of Memphis Lift people here. Our other partners, Freedom to Choose Schools, the Center for Black Educator Development, Brightbeam, and One Public Media. And with no further ado, I respect all three of these people to just a great amount. And I call them friends. And I've seen all of them in action and their love for children, for education. And they're just incredible. You're about to hear a beautiful dynamic reflection from the likes of Miss J. Artist Wright, Sharif El Mekki, and Christopher Stewart. Please give them a warm welcome for us.
Thanks for having us, Charles.
The floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here. You guys do your thing. All right. And you all, please start leaving your questions when we have the fireside chat. They're going to have a great discussion, but they will take some questions from the audience. So start writing them, and I will start tagging some of those. It's all yours, Jay, Chris, and Sheree.
All right, thanks so much. First of all, y'all, why don't y'all tell me about the memo about having like a plethora of books behind you? I mean, Dad, what are you trying to do here?
Every conversation you have with Dr. Fuller, you're going to leave with
right.
a pile of book titles, you know. So that's part of it, probably.
Well, look, I was actually on the other link where there was over 140 viewers, a lot of people from Bayo, from Memphis Lift. Dr. Fuller's family was on. It was just so heartwarming. It always just feels like this homecoming and this reunion when we get all these people together. And I'm just so grateful that so many of y'all are tuned in, and really honored to be even in this group of just people who are continuing this fight and this legacy that Dr. Fuller started. One of the things that I mentioned in the chat is, we are all fortunate to be able to have access to a living legend. I mean, you think about it, Jesse Jackson just passed away at 84 years old, but he was Dr. Fuller's peer. I think about the conversations that Dr. Fuller had about talking with Stokely Carmichael. If Stokely Carmichael would have been alive, he would have been about 85. Fred Hampton would have been 77. There's just so many of our civil rights leaders and activists who we don't get to see, touch, feel, experience. And we've all been so fortunate to have that with Dr. Fuller. But even more so, this man just creates so much space for all of us. And it's just a joy and a pleasure. I want to ask y'all, as you were watching this documentary and just listening to Dr. Fuller, what does it mean to carry his work forward when we think about the fact that, again, he's a living legend. Dr. Fuller is about 84 years old now. But, he's still younger than most of us. But, what does it mean to you to think about like just carrying this work forward, and especially after seeing something so inspiring like that video?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in. I think what grounds his work for me is the community. His love for his community. His desire to ensure that justice is being served on behalf of community. I first met Dr. Fuller was in my first year as a principal, and so for him to for me first year as a principal and getting to meet him and hear him, but like his encouragement, but also his expectations. We had just met, but he was still conveying what his expectations were for me as a school leader, in my community, and that hasn't changed, right? Like you can call him up today, and he's gonna let you know, like, where you're going, astray, but he does it in a way where he still says, like, you know what, like, hey, this is different times, like maybe, but here's what I think. If you ask me, like if you ask me, right, because it's not like browbeating, but he's also like informing, like he's that educator, like he's an educator. And I know in the piece they're like, oh, well, he was never a traditional teacher. Like, we have community educators that can run circles around classically trained educators millions of times over, right? And so that's a big part. And the last thing I would say is getting to visit his school. I see y'all don't have the Dr. Howard Fuller Collegiate Academy swag. You need to step your game up.
There with you.
I know you are. I know you are. The kids say I'm stunting on y'all right now, but this is but being able to see that love that his youth have, because that's what you say. You can visit a school, you can walk in the door and know how are children cared for and how do they experience people's leadership, right? That's the telling tale. So all of that is a continuous reminders of the work at hand.
Yeah, I'm curious because you kind of brought something up about how he was able to influence you. Chris, can you share like a moment? We all have moments where Fuller did something to influence us, like or shape the direction you were going. Do you have a story like that you could share?
Yeah, so before I was involved in any of the work that we do now, that we are known for doing, I saw Dr. Fuller at an event long before I was involved in anything. And I had never seen anything like it. It kind of levitated me in a way. I never heard anybody speak as directly and as pointedly, but as contrarian as he was. Like, he gave permission for me and many other people to be Black reformers, to be like for our people 100% and down for our people, but at the same time not down for a system that was hurting our people just because we felt like we had to participate in that system. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen the level of like articulation and just presence. And since that day until now, I've never seen Dr. Fuller be unprepared in any situation. I've never seen him show up to anything and be unclear about what he needed to say to the room and what a situation called for. I've never seen him show up to anything anywhere without already knowing what he was about before he got there. Yeah. And so, the moment for me was having dealt with a whole bunch of people that weren't Dr. Fuller or Howard, who none of them clicked with me or resonated, then seeing him and thought that's what good looks like. That's what good looks like. That's what educated looks like. That's what articulate looks like. That's what being about your mission in your presence. That's what it looks like. So I had that moment long before I was involved in any of this. And here's the funny thing is, when I finally got to meet Dr. Fuller the first time, I was like nervous. I was nervous. There's a few people I've met in my life that I was nervous. So, I'm like, am I dressed well enough? And I'm like looking down, and my shirt wasn't ironed, and I'm like, damn, I should iron my shirt, like whatever. Howard would come rolling up in a crushed velvet velour tracksuit and some tennis shoes. And this is the thing I will say about him: he's always pushed to the side this legend stuff, this looking up to him stuff, this Dr. Fuller stuff. He has always put that to the side. He's be straight with you. I'm Howard, and I'm on this mission like any of you all are on this mission, and we all got a job to do, blah, 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 blah. That's what I love about him. I've met a lot of important people who had important things to say. The majority of them did not have the personality or the personal relatability that Howard has that makes you feel like you're worthy of being there and being with him. So anyways, I don't mean to go on and on about it, but I was dressed just fine.
You were just perfectly. No, it's so real. Well, I will share my experience with the first time that I met him. I was in New Jersey, so shout out to Newark, New Jersey. And he was actually the keynote at a conference. And to be honest with you, I had never heard of him before because I came from a different industry. But I was watching this man, he was sitting down and all these people were just swarming around him. And he was just kind of sitting there with his head kind of cocked to the side, with his arms folded. And he just had this look on his face like, man, I don't really want to be in this place with these fools. But then some Newark parents walked up, and his whole face just lit up. And it was like he just moved everybody aside and was just like, hey, and he was greeting people, like, greeting moms, holding babies. And that's when I said the same thing you said. I was like, oh, that's good people. Because very much like you, I've met tons of people. I actually transferred into this work from the entertainment industry. And so like meeting someone who you think is impressive based off of what you've seen on TV or on film can kind of be heartbreaking when you meet them in person and they don't live up to that legacy. Dr. Fuller has always lived up to his legacy. He's always been authentically himself and completely true to his people. And yeah, Natasha said that Dr. Fuller's sneaker game is crazy. True that. And even to the extent that, I don't know if y'all know this, but even though the kids get to wear uniforms, he does allow them to have a sneaker game at his school. So, shout out to that legacy of his sneaker game too. Well, look, we only have a little bit of time left before we actually hear from Dr. Fuller himself and the facilitated call between him and Heather. But I'm just curious, there was so much that was said from him and so much that he has said to all of us over the years. How are y'all feeling just right now, especially as the conversations around school choice start to permeate again? Like, what are we feeling as a collective group? And what are y'all feeling? As I feel like we have, quite frankly, been passed the torch, to continue this work in a way of being unapologetic about what's best for Black and Brown people. How does this make you feel right now?
Well, I felt for a long time that that we have a job to do, because Howard always says that each generation has to either fulfill its promise or betray it, and this is our moment right now. So if we were really channeling what he does and who he is, and taking the lesson from him to be right for our time, we would be as clear as he is clear, right? Like, because when you're leading people, you can't be confused. You need to know what the moment is, what the situation you're in is, because there's other people watching you and listening to you. So your voice has to be absolutely clear about where you are. I think, you and I have talked, and Sharif and Charles, we have all talked about how there's a lot going on right now, but none of it surprises us. It's not like we're caught off guard, right? Like we understand patterns and pattern recognition. Part of that is because we have watched Howard in his life be the example of that, being clear, staying clear, being clarion crystal clear for your people, and especially in times of war. And we're always at war, but in times of this type of war, right, where it's more pronounced, the war on our children's mind, the war on the Black body and mind, the war on our Black children, making children the new cotton, all of that type of stuff. We really just have to be as clear as he is in these situations. And for the longest time that I've known Howard, he has been a pioneer blazing trails. At some point, he told me, Chris, I'm on a rescue mission now. Right? All that blazing a trail is a rescue mission. Very clear on what he's doing and what his purpose is. That makes me always feel like I'm not clear enough and I need to be clear. So in this moment right now, that's exactly what I feel like I would do to try and carry on the work that he gave us, which is be clear in this moment about where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, one, just maintaining the level of determination necessary that he did for decades, and staying connected to, to people, to the humanity, to community. He also, some of his mannerisms and his directness reminds me of Malcolm, and one of the things that I love that Malcolm used to talk about is like, if I'm going to be remembered for anything, remember me for my sincerity. Like when I say I love you, I love you. When I'm calling something out, I'm calling it out. I'm not shucking, I'm not jiving, I'm not dancing, I'm not doing any of that. Like, I am crystal clear, and I want you to be crystal clear about what I believe. And to me, that is such an important legacy, because there's so many jokers out there, so many clowns, so many people who talk out of both sides of their mouths. And so, having a clarion call like deeply resonates, with me, and having that measured with a level of humility, and
Yeah.
him pushing other people to lead. He's been talking about retiring for as long as I've known him. And he's like, no, y'all need to do this. Y'all, I'm like, no, I'm not. You talk about passing the torch. I'm like, I'm not accepting the torch. Baba, you still here. You still got work to do. You know what I mean? So definitely not ready to carry any torch, but deeply believe in being committed to the work. And that's that's how I view him. And he's still in the work. Like, what are we doing right now, and what are we about to learn?
I mean,
like,
look,
that's the work, right?
I'm literally leading an organization that Dr. Fuller started just 5 years ago, right? And so imagine that the pressure that I feel, but it doesn't feel like pressure for all the things that you named, because he is still part of it. He still is very much a teacher and a leader. And and literally, when we started Freedom to Choose Schools, he constantly told me, we are doing this for Black and Brown school leaders, and we will not sway from that conversation. So, when the administration just changed last year and they were talking about anti-DEI and all that stuff, I had tons of people coming to me and asking me, you guys going to change your mission? And I was like, Tiger don't change his stripes. Like, we are still unapologetic about supporting the growth and expansion of Black and Brown school leaders in this country, because it's still a narrative and a mission that we've got to complete. So until that mission is complete, we continue, right?
Yeah, sounds like these. You double down on the mission.
Yes, 100%.
Double down on it. Like, oh, y'all thought I wasn't clear about it? Okay, let's be uber super clear about what it is. Just we don't want any confusion.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we are at time. I wanted to turn it back over to Dr. Charles Cole, because with the moment that we've all been waiting for is to actually hear from Dr. Fuller himself. And as I said at the top of the hour, it is just such a privilege to be able to listen and see and feel and touch a living legend. I mean, I just, when I read about people like Ella Baker and, like I said, Stokely Carmichael, people like that have not had a chance to live the life that he has led, and to know this man, those were his peers, those people that he knew personally. It's just so inspiring. And I love to always get a chance to just talk with him and hear from him, as we all do. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Charles Cole, that will then do the introductions to the man of the hour. Thanks so much, Cole.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to just all of you. And I think you all did a magnificent job. And I just want the people here to see, and ask them about their organizations, ask them about what they do. All of us are out here working and trying. But if I got to be in a foxhole with anybody, it's definitely these three. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here as we launch this institute. And I know that I'm going to get my marching orders from the good General Fuller as well. So with that being said, you all say bye, and thank you to Ms. J. Artist Wright, Mr. Sharif El-Mekki, and my brother, Citizen Stewart, down there, man. The beanie was throwing me off, but I like it. You look good, man. I like it. I like it. All right. So,
Dr. Stewart.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
It is. Speak it.
As we bring up Dr. Fuller and Dr. Harding, I know I need to introduce the Institute again. And we are the Agentic Institute, and we believe in agency. We believe in a lot of those things, everything that you saw in that work. And we think that this is the continuation of that. And Dr. Fuller has been so gracious to be the special advisor to the executive director of the Agentic Institute, which is me. And we are also blessed to have Dr. Heather Harding on our board and ultimately be my boss. And I'm just inspired by both of them. I'm going to do a formal introduction of them, but I just want them to feel that love from me first off. To lead tonight's fireside conversation, I want to introduce someone that I trust just completely. She's really brilliant and one of just my favorite people in the world. And every time we talk, she's checking on my well-being. I don't know if she thinks I'm going to die soon, but I love her. I love how she checks in on me and makes me get help. But Dr. Heather Harding is a thinker. She's a leader. She's a member of our board. She spent most of her career at the intersection of racial equity and high quality education in philanthropy, academia, and nonprofit leadership. She is a founding member of Education Leaders of Color, better known as EDLOC, an enrolled member of the Hearing Pod Wampanoag tribe. Excuse me if I mispronounced that. And a mother of two very, very cool and awesome young people that are just the swaggiest of young folks every time I see them, and they're growing and making me feel old. She tells very honest stories. She builds real trust, and she is exactly the right person to lead this conversation. Dr. Heather Harding, welcome. And I want you to get your full flowers in that. I'm bringing up Fuller, but how are you doing?
Really great. I mean, to watch this in community is a real gift. And I just want to welcome everybody to the Agentic Institute. We are so excited to be here and to continue on the legacy of the work of you, Dr. Cole.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Howard Fuller needs very little introduction, but he deserves a great one. He spent his life fighting for underserved students and families. He served as superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools. He's founded the Institute for the Transformation of Learning at Marquette University and became one of the most recognized voices in the parent choice movement in this country. And we say parent choice, not school choice, because parents get to choose their schools. That distinction is very important. Schools don't choose parents. Parents choose schools. He has received 5 honorary doctorate degrees, published his memoir, No Struggle, No Progress, and now serves as Distinguished Professor Emeritus at Marquette and as a special advisor to the Agentic Institute. So if you do want to support his work, definitely support us. We got you. Tonight, his story was on PBS, but in a few minutes, he's about to be right here in front of you. Get your questions ready. My brother, my friend, and just somebody that I've spent hours and hours talking to who always has time for me. I truly love this man, Dr. Howard Fuller. How you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, I'm good, Charles. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry. I'm good, Dr. Cole.
No, Charles is fine. I will always be that. I will get out of the way, though, because I have 2 powerhouses, and I'm going to hand this over to the real leader tonight, which is Dr. Heather Harding. And as I leave, Heather helped me construct this. Heather helped me build out this entire institute. Her brain and her mind around how to push education for our people in an equitable way is just second to none. So you should all probably reach out to her. Dr. Harding, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much. Dr. Howard Fuller, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Dr. Harding, how are you doing?
We all gonna be doctors because we did the work.
Doctor. Yeah.
We're gonna be doctors tonight. I, like the audience, had the opportunity to see this really beautiful documentary about your life and your work. I'm wondering what it feels like to have that on film and to have it shared in the world. What was it like during the debut?
Yeah, so before I answer that question, I just want to thank everybody who's on this link tonight. Obviously, I want to thank Charles and Jay and Sharif and Chris. I can't get over Chris's beanie. I mean, I don't know if that's some kind of new signal or whatever, right? But I also want to make sure I thank Miss Sarah down there with Memphis Lift, who I love so much. And, she's a warrior. So I just want to thank everybody. It really is sort of a humbling experience to sort of transition to your question. Honestly, it's kind of weird, to see yourself, on a documentary. I never thought about that. Like you're only like doing the work. You know what I'm saying? You're not out there trying, I want to have a documentary. But I'm so grateful to Mike Goucher and Len Sprangers, who decided to do this documentary, and then, the PBS and all of that. So, so that's sort of how I would respond to that question.
It's really well done. I want to start at the beginning. So my first question is, one, Dr. Fuller, we're both Capricorns, and Capricorns are ambitious people, and they go for what they know, and they know where they go. Similar to what Chris said about you, being clear, having clarity about what your work was. But I noticed at the beginning of your own schooling experience, you had the experience of being the only Black or the only one in a lot of situations early in your life. And given that you've had such a multifaceted career, you're a civil rights activist, an organizer, an educator, somebody who works for government. How did that experience of being the only one shape the decisions that you made as your career unfolded?
You know, it's interesting, Heather. I don't know the answer to that. I honestly don't know how it shaped me. All I know is I felt like I'm going to do whatever needs to be done. I don't know what people's perception of me. I did know what some people's perception was, and so I was going to prove them wrong. No matter what. And I'm really grateful for the fact that some of my people who I went to Carroll with, who I love and are in contact with today, are probably on this Zoom right now, particularly the Mullins, and I'm not sure who else. And that experience, particularly at Carroll, where I'm the first Black male to graduate from there, and I was the only Black student there for a couple of years, it was really like a bittersweet experience, because it was like being in between two worlds and not really in either one. And so in some ways, while I'm grateful for that experience, I wouldn't want anyone else to go through that experience. And when I left Carroll, I purposely chose a school in a city with Black people. Like that's why I went to Western Reserve and for some other reasons. But honestly, Heather, what I had to do was to regain my sense of myself as like a Black person. And I'm just so grateful that I met people who helped me do that, when I went to Western Reserve University. And then, of course, while I was at Western Reserve University, where I got arrested for the first time, it was in April of '64 when I sat in Corey Methodist Church and I heard Malcolm deliver the ballot or the bullet speech. I was there. And I went into that church kind of one type of Black person, and I left an entirely different human being because of Malcolm X, which is why I admire him so much.
Yeah, I mean, so you do know the impact in a little bit ways, in terms of, you talked about you decided to make a choice to never be in that situation again, and you wouldn't want that for somebody, but also that sense of community, and then your moment of really radicalization, right? The next question I have is focused on another pivot in your career. There was a point where you were working within the system, and doing at the pinnacle, really, superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools. And then you kind of pivoted and decided, I'm going to work this from the outside. Can you talk about what you think it demands for your agency to be inside versus outside? Were there benefits to either one that you would share with this audience? Because I'm sure many people listening have considered both and.
Yeah, first of all, people talk about outside, inside the system. We all in America. So to a certain extent, you ain't outside no system. You may work in different agencies and, you have these different experiences, right? But here's the thing I think that allowed me to negotiate all of this is that, number one, you have to be very clear on who you are as a human, who you are as a person. You also have to make sure that you are committed to purpose and not to the method to get to purpose. Because when you're committed to purpose, you can function in a number of different environments. Where you get screwed up is when you get committed to the arrangements and not to the purpose. So, for example, I support charter schools as long as charter schools work for our kids, for our families, for our community. I don't have no inherent commitment to charter schools. I got an inherent commitment to having our young people educated. I have an inherent commitment to self-determination. I have an inherent commitment to the value of Black people. I mean, I love my people unconditionally, right? And so when you're committed in that way, you can function in a number of different environments. And people may not understand that, right? Because they may see you moving in these different environments without understanding that I'm gonna say me, I'm very clear on the distinction between not only purpose and the method to get there, but I'm also clear on the difference between principle and strategy and tactics, right? So for example, when I met with Bush the first time, the younger Bush, I met with him in Texas. And, in fact, I started out my book talking about that. Now, for a lot of people, my meeting with George Bush was a matter of principle. For me, it was a matter of strategy and tactics, right? But today, and this comes from what I learned from Derek Bell, about interest convergence theory.
Sure.
And he talked about it in his book. Yeah, Chris and Sharif, in his book, Silent Covenants. But what I'm trying to get at in answering your question is, if Donald Trump was to walk in a room and say, how Owusu, which is my other name that Ron just mentioned, that's my African name, but Howard Fuller, if you stay in this room, I'll give your people $50 million. Well, our people ain't gonna get $50 million because I'm out. Because for me to meet with Trump is a matter of principle. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for others, it may be like my meeting with Bush, strategy and tactics. So even though I believe in interest convergence theory, even though I believe and understand the difference between principle and strategy and tactics, you still got to draw a line. You know what I'm saying? You got to draw a line. And there's just certain things that you won't do. And that's how I've tried to live my life and how I continue to live my life.
How did you know where your line was, and how did you manage that external gaze that was judging you?
Yeah, I think you figure out your line over time. And I think it's both a combination of your life experiences and your study, right? So when you may start out, for example, I started out looking at everything just from a totally Black perspective, right? But once I went to Africa, and particularly when I spent time in Mozambique with Frelimo, it's very, very hard for you to be in a totally Black situation. Like, I met Black people in Mozambique, Heather, who had never seen any white people in their lives, but they paid taxes to the Portuguese. So the question was, how did that happen? Well, some Black people collected the taxes for the Portuguese. And so what happens is, when you're in a situation like that, it becomes very clear that a perspective that says it's only about race, it doesn't work. And so, as I talked about in the documentary, that's why I studied Marx, because I had to have another frame of reference to understand the oppression of Black people, particularly when Black people are oppressing Black people. And so I had to understand the class-based aspect of our oppression. And so my point is that if you're intellectually alive, you're going to always be studying, right? You're going to always be engaged in continuous improvement. You're going to always be trying to make sure that you're understanding your situation, that you're constantly learning, you're constantly trying to figure it out. And the moment you think you figured it out is your dumbest moment, because you'll not, you know what I'm saying? You got to always be open to continuously getting new information and learning, if you're going to fight for our people.
Yeah. That is such an important distinction around, one, being a constant learner, a lifelong, always questioning, having the curiosity and the openness, but also having a line that you're aware of internally. We expect that we have a lot of young people also listening. And given that we're the Agentic Institute, I'm curious what kind of advice in this day and time, at this moment, you would give to young people about how they can increase their agency and impact.
Yeah, so it goes back to something that Chris said, really, and it comes from Frantz Fanon's book, Wretched of the Earth. And what he said is that every generation out of relative obscurity must discover its mission and either fill it or betray it, right? So what I would say to young people is, you got to figure out, what is your mission, right? Like, what is it that you passionately care about? What is it that you passionately believe in. And you got to figure out a way to pursue that passion. And of course, I wish that passion would be to engage and struggle to improve the lives of your people, right? But everybody has to figure that out, as you know. Everybody has to figure out, like, why am I here? What am I going to do? And so what I would say to young people is, you got to figure that out. But what I will also say is, if you decide that you're going to fight for our people, you got to be willing to live in a sea of contradictions. And what you got to be absolutely clear about is, what are you willing to pay for? What is the price that you're willing to pay? Because if you decide to fight for our people, there is a price to be paid. And I know my children are probably on this. And what I would argue is, I would never tell people to do what I did, which was to put movement ahead of family. Because if you do that, you pay a price, right? It's like I hear a lot of people today talk about balance. And I honestly don't know what that is. I mean, I know what it is, but what I also know is, if you choose balance, which I would never argue is not the right thing to choose, then there's certain things that you're not going to do, because you're going to refuse to do certain things to make sure that you have balance. And by virtue of your agreeing to do that, there's certain things that you're just not going to be able to do. Because you can't have it both ways. You know what I'm saying? But I would never tell people not to seek balance. I don't know what that is. I never, because I didn't approach it that way, right? To me, it was like, I remember I was so stupid that at one time I believed that it was counter-revolutionary to have a vacation. That's how stupid I was. And I'm not telling anybody to function in that way. But because I functioned in that way, there were certain things that I was able to do that I probably otherwise would not have been able to do. But everybody's got to make that decision. It's a personal decision that you have to make.
Okay. I had a quick lag, but I think I got the tail end. I have a question about a follow-up question around how did you get so free that you could commit your whole self to it? And then there's some questions in the chat around, how do you sustain that love for Black people to pay the price, right?
It has to be something within you. There's no book you can go read about how to do this. It has to be something that is deep in you. And I think where I got it from, honestly, is from my mother and my grandmother, who are the two most important people in my lives, right? So, for example, when I hear people talk about Black people don't work hard, what the hell are y'all talking about? Black people were slaves, man. My mother, my grandmother worked hard every day of their lives. And so for you to talk about, well, if you just work hard, you're going to make it. This is bullshit. You got to understand that working hard ain't the only thing that makes certain things possible. Because you got a lot of lazy people who are rich as hell and who are, so we got to be clear that this drive for our people, it has to come from within you. But I think as I said, I think I got it from my mother and my grandmother, in terms of what it was that they instilled in me. And I told this, this story, maybe it was in the documentary, I think it was, where I was sitting on the porch in Shreveport, Louisiana with my mother. And some cops came up and said, hey, there's a robber in your house. And my mother said, nobody in our house. And the cops said, yeah, and told her to move. I told you to move, girl. And she didn't move. He kicked her. And so they called my grandmother. My grandmother came home, got her gun, and went to the police station looking for the police who kicked her daughter.
Right.
That's the blood that's in my veins, right? And if I were not for my people in the way that I am, I just think my grandmother would would come back,
Come and get you.
like, yeah, and get me. You know what I mean? So, but it goes beyond just my mother, my grandmother. It's understanding Sojourner Truth, right? It's understanding Harriet Tubman. It's understanding Claudette Colvin, who people know was arrested before Rosa Parks. You know, but it's not just the leaders. It's like the masses of our people who have suffered, right? Who have endured. And so I feel that struggle in the deepest part of my being. And I actually do believe, and I'll end this part this way, is that I actually do believe that to those of us who much is given, much is required.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a second part to that question, which was, how did you deal with the external criticism or the gaze from others about what you should have been doing?
Yeah. Honestly, it took me a moment to develop that kind of hard skin, I guess. Because the reality of it is, if you decide to fight for our people, you're going to get criticized by our people. You know what I mean? Some of our people who ain't trying to fight for our people and who trying to, Negroes who are beholden to the power structure and not to our people. And then even sometimes people you're fighting for don't necessarily understand the nature of what it is you're doing. And you have to be willing to take that criticism, right? But at the same time, you have to have like a laser-like focus on what it is you're actually trying to get done. Yeah. And so I expect people to criticize me. In fact, I know that there will be people who will celebrate my death, and that pleases me, because if they didn't, it would mean that I didn't do what I needed to. Honestly, I know that's kind of morbid or whatever, but I do believe that. And so again, if you say you're going to fight for our people, can you live with the contradictions? Can you live with the pain that comes from that? And the pain don't just come from the enemy or your opponents. The pain will come from your own people. And so, but if you're going to decide to fight, you got to be willing to accept that and continue to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, none of us in this room are going to be celebrating your death. And I think we're really happy that we have the opportunity to give you your flowers now. And so, I hope you feel all the love. There are just tons of beautiful comments that keep going by.
I do feel it, Heather. I mean,
good.
And I'll never be able to have the words to explain how grateful I am and how fortunate I am, to be 85 and, to still be able to engage at a certain level. Yeah. But I'm as people know, Jay knows this, other people know this, I'm struggling to make sure that I do it in the right way. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, I decided to quit speaking nationally, or at least, leaving Milwaukee to speak. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I think there comes a point in time where you have to step aside, right? And I believe you should step aside while people still want you, as opposed to being dragged off, dragged off the stage. Is he ever going to leave? You know how that stuff goes. Yeah. And so what becomes important, I think, is like I explained it this way. If you're in a job and you don't plan on dying in that job, you can leave 1 year too early or 1 year too late, right? The issue is to figure out what year are you in. Yes. And so what I want to be able to do is to support Jay and Chris and Sharif and Charles and, like all of the people who, like here in Milwaukee, like Stephanie and Celestin and Lauren and Rodney and Al and all of these people who are engaged in struggle. I want to be able to support them without being in the way.
Yeah.
Because the world that they're negotiating is a very different world than the one that I was negotiating, right? And so my job is to simply explain to you, here's the lessons I learned. And some of those lessons will be useful to you and some of them not. But I got to get out of the way so that you can pursue struggle as you see it.
Ooh, that is a word. And I just want to thank you for taking that stance. I often see that the folks in your generation have had trouble getting out of the way. You have so many intellectual and leader children out here. And they are doing good work. And so it is really interesting to hear you talk about and have us hear you, because also you deserve your rest. But
I agree with Heather.
It's a different way of thinking from a lot of your peers. Let me just applaud you for that.
Yeah, let me say two things on that. Number one, when people say, "Oh, like I want to sit at your feet," hell no. Why would you want to sit? You don't want to sit at my feet. That's ridiculous. I mean, the idea is that there should be intergenerational learning and respect, right?
Amen.
I can learn from everybody's younger than me, but I can learn from young people. You can learn from me, et cetera. And we have to really believe that, not just say it.
Yeah.
We really have to honestly believe that. And I do honestly believe that, very deeply. And I just think that this idea of just trying to hold on, that is not what we should be doing. And I know people don't agree with the next thing I'm getting ready to say, but I don't believe in legacy, honestly. I mean, but here's what I mean by that. I don't want anybody making a decision at our school trying to protect my legacy. Hell no. You should be making decisions at our school based on what our children need. Not talking about, what about Fuller's legacy? It's like people come up to me and say, you know what? The kids were fighting at your school. That hurts your legacy. Get out of here. Kids been fighting in schools ever since school started. And when you if you agree to have your name on a building like a school,
right,
then it means you're willing to take everything that comes with that, the good, the bad, because it's not about legacy. It's about changing our children's lives. You know what I'm saying? And it's also about making sure that you understand that when you step aside, you have to step aside. You know how people say, "I'm leaving," but then they're all up in the shadows, messing around, getting in the way. Well, what about this? What about? I'm not doing that, right? I believe that you function at the highest level that you can for as long as you can, and then there comes a point in time when you have to take another role. It isn't that you're done. It's just that you have a different role to play, and for some of our quote leaders, it's hard for them to do that, and I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's why I commend you. So you have an institute at Marquette, but you have agreed also, you did, to be a senior advisor to the Agentic Institute. Tell me a little bit about what you hope this is going to grow into and why you are going to be a senior advisor for Agentic.
Yeah, so what the reason why I said I did was because I did set up the Institute for Transformational Learning at Marquette that Judith Romulus, who's on this link, she now runs it. And I'm just happy that, they've been able to continue it, not because I started it, but so that they can continue to do the work. What I hope to do for this institute is whatever it is you and Charles think I can help with, honestly. I don't have I want to do this, I want to do that. It's just that there's some things that I've learned along the way, particularly when you create these types of institutes. And so there may very well be some issues and stuff down the road that you all may confront that I may be able to help with. And so to me, when you're an advisor, you only give advice when it's asked. You know, you're not in there messing with people. So that's what I plan on doing. Whatever you all think I can help with, that's what I plan on doing.
And what has been the most fun? Jay told a story about how you were sitting on a panel and you were looking like, oh, I'm tired of this. And then the families came in and you lit up. So what can you give us? Because, you know, right now it's all about finding joy and trying to sustain ourselves. What has been the most joyful parts of this really tremendous career?
I think whenever you see people's lives changed, to the extent that I have any joy, it's that. My children are my joy. You know, I mean, I love them, you know, deeply. I mean, they, you know, my grandson, you know, like is like a joy. These kids at our school, you know, like when you see them smiling, when you see them doing things, you know, like we just had a group of our young people go to the state, not in basketball, but in robotics.
Hey.
And, you know, and to see the smiles on their face, because they FaceTime me, you know, like while they were in the competition. I mean, that kind of stuff brings you joy when you see our people advance. But the problem, honestly, Heather, is it's hard to be joyful when you see continuous oppression.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like people say to me, you know, you've been successful. Well, what is success, right? Success for me is not any kind of individual thing that I do. Success for me is when my people's lives are better. Yeah. So when Ann Atwater, you know, like the movie that was made, Best of Enemies. Mm-hmm. So I was the one who actually trained Ann as an organizer, right? And I remember like how those people felt when we organized the first rent strike. You know what I'm saying? And we like confronted the slumlord like, hey man, you're not getting no rent till you come fix these houses, right? And to see people be transformed by their power, right? That to me is where the joy is, but it's always fleeting because the oppression is right outside the door. So, you know, so I think we lost Heather. At least
I think she froze a little bit. She's back. There you go. Right. We got you.
We got her. Because I know you were there, Charles.
Charles is always in the background. I mean, I just want to thank you for sharing your leadership and your taste for freedom with all of us. Charles was shocked to know that Dr. Fuller and I had never met until we did our little prep call. We've been in rooms together, and it's a real honor for me to get to have this conversation with you and also to experience just all this love. And you do have a legacy, whether you want one or not. And I just want to say that I remember being in grad school when you became the superintendent in Milwaukee and reading case studies. And then when you came out to support this voucher choice program, exactly what you are saying, this conversation about, well, can we trust him? What is he doing over there? And I think you have led through that with so much clarity that it gives all of the folks in this community a sense of how they can focus themselves, how they can be brave. And we just appreciate that. And I look forward to the work that we're going to do together with everyone, with the Agentic Institute. I do think it's important. You have left a lot of artifacts, your book that you wrote, an amazing story that really highlights the experiences that you had on the continent and your journey. And this beautiful documentary helps people really unpack and ask themselves the questions about how they get ready, what they're going to do next. So I just really want to applaud you and thank you for this time.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it a lot. I want to make sure we thank Lisa Frazier Page, who is the only reason why that book happened. I think Lisa may be on tonight, and she's just a phenomenal person. And so again, I just want to thank all of you all who participated in this. It really means a lot to me. Heather, I want to thank you because I agree, Sarah, Heather has been amazing. She continues to be amazing. And so I'm just grateful. And to Charles, and then to the panelists, Jay and Sharif and beanie wearing Chris.
Chris is never going to live this beanie down.
No, he ain't gonna live that beanie down. No, not ever.
All right, Charles, turning it back over to you. If we were in person, we'd all be clapping for
Yes,
Dr.
we would.
Fuller.
We absolutely would. I just want to personally just thank you both just so much, and just for the time that you all have given me. I have to do some, I have to reintroduce and do some housekeeping so the team doesn't kill me. But a very heartfelt just thank you to you both. And Dr. Harding, you are very special and impactful in your own right, and I'm glad that you are getting your flowers as well. And we love having you on this board. And Dr. Fuller, man, the hours and the time that you have given me over the years since we've met to now, just being one of my closest confidants and pushing me and pushing this organization and everybody that's kind of appeared here has been incredible. I do want to personally thank our board, which is incredible. We have, you all have seen Dr. Fuller and you've seen Dr. Harding. Sarah Carpenter is on that board. Tamara Thomas is on that board, and Dr. Stan Pogro. And if you like what you heard tonight, there's other opportunities and ways to support this work. We have to fund this stuff. We have to make sure we can do the things that we need to do. But one of the things I want people to take away that from Fuller and from Heather is we always can talk about the system. We can always push on the faceless, nameless blame of the system. And usually, and this is the part when we talk about Black or race, but we don't bring in class, because there's a lot of people like us that do have money and are fine, and the sense of urgency is not the same. But if you meet at that street, that intersection of Black or brown and poor as hell in this country, education is almost promised to be terrible for you. And we can't wait.
Charles, could I say one thing before we leave?
Yes, sir. You can do whatever you want, brother.
Yeah. No, seriously. But when you talk about all the time that I've given you, what that means is all the time that you've given me. And that's really important, man. And you and I have talked about this, right? We've written articles together. We've talked. You've taught me so much, right? There's so many people who are on this Zoom who feel like I've taught them all of this, but all the things that they've taught me, right? And that's very important for me to say. And because I mean it deeply, right? You can't, people talk about leadership. You can't lead if there ain't nobody following. And you don't want people to just follow you. You want people to join you. And then you have to join them. It's like a mutual thing. And I can't stress that enough.
Man, that just means so much. And if you want me to take y'all off screen, I can, but I also I wanted you all to kind of be here for this part. Because I do have to, this institute, a lot of you know us from Energy Converters, and that work is still going to continue. We're just independent now. We have our own 501c3, and that flagship program has moved inside of the Agentic Institute. And I just really want people to understand what that organization does and has done. We have worked with thousands of young people across more than 20 states. We have lifted the voices of even more of those young people by hearing what their needs and concerns are. We've trained them on how to read their own transcripts, how to be agentic when the system is not protecting them. And we've taught parents. You can find the Agentic Black Parent on our website. We're still, working out some kinks. We're going to update the website soon. It's still energyconverters.org. But I just want people to understand what this is. This is the next chapter of Energy Converters. It is the convergence of academia, of research, but of actually doing something, of not just, as Dr. Fuller has said very often, not being hotel revolutionaries, but actually being out there and talking with people and working with people and getting your hands dirty. And that's something that we try to do. And we want to continue to do this work. So I just really wanted to thank you all. I'm going to send out things in the next few days to everybody that came. This will be streamed at some point publicly, but I wanted this to be an intimate space. I wanted people to understand that they're at the first one of these, but we will try to do these quarterly. If you like these and you want to see them continue, then let us know in this chat, and also suggest people and entities that you want to see us kind of do this in concert with. I would love to do something with the Memphis Lift here. I would love to bring in other people and other work that really pulls out what agency is in today's time. And just for you all that's listening, when we talk about agency, we're talking about awareness, navigation, and duty. Awareness, you have to be aware of what is happening around you. You have to be in that moment. Some people are privileged to not have to be aware. It's just a thing. And I think this is one that's really important, is navigation. Now that you are aware, a lot of our people can't wait for the system to improve or magically for poverty and racism to end. I promise you it's not ending tomorrow. So I think that that's really important. And then finally, once you have those things, there's a sense of duty. And Dr. Fuller, you have lived your sense of duty to the fullest. You continue to live it. And we just want to thank and honor you. And if you were moved by tonight, if you saw your work, your community, or your students in any part of this, I'll get y'all off. I feel bad that making y'all be on stage. I'll just do this for you guys. But if you saw your work, your community, or your students in any part of what you heard tonight, I want to hear from you, not through just a form, and we'll send all that stuff out because my team would kill me if I don't. And not through our website, but directly. You can email me, charles@energyconverters.org, and it's spelled ORS at the end, not ERS. We wanted our own domain, so that's why I was like that. But I will respond to you personally. Agency starts where you are. Awareness, navigation, and duty. We will always push systems, but I believe that we have to push society to be what it needs to be. And this is that work. That is what Dr. Fuller spent his life doing. And that is what the Agentic Institute is here to continue. We are actively seeking partners, educators, school leaders, funders, researchers. If you are serious about building cultures of agency in underserved communities, there is a face for you in what we are building. We want you there. We want your face in our place if you care about those things. And this tonight is just the first of our quarterly Agentic Fireside chat. The next one is coming. If you, like I said, if you want to make suggestions, definitely. If you're interested in being on the board, reach out. If you have connections to philanthropy, what we do at every single level, we have education and we do a lot of support of young people through our fellowships. We have support for our parents through parent education, and we build resources that work for them. And we also consult with leaders and CMOs and district leaders and superintendents. And just as I leave you, one of the real things that's happening right now in Oakland, 15 young people to 20 young people just did this research, talked to 500 kids in Oakland. All of these were high achieving students. And we asked them if they're reading on grade level, if they know. And 8 out of 10 of them thought that they were reading on grade level and proficient. And then we went over the research with all of them, and it was more like 3 out of 10 of them were. And they wondered why I have A's and A pluses in AP English and English 11, but I'm reading on an 8th grade level or a 9th grade level. So those young people, not us, those young people are demanding in Oakland and in other places that on this report card, you also have my literacy rate. You also have my reading level, because there shouldn't be this level of disconnect. And parents are crying and sad and upset because why would you question if your kid is reading on grade level if they got an A? That's an example of being agentic and not waiting for these people. So with that being said, I wish you all adieu. Thank you and good night. We would have our follow-ups, and you all have a great evening.